It is 2 days before payday. You check your bank account and you feel that familiar stomach drop. If you know the anxiety of watching your balance drain to zero before the next check clears, you are not alone. Recent surveys show up to 78% of workers have found themselves trapped in that exact cycle. We often assume this financial tightrope is strictly a low-wage problem. It makes sense on paper. If you do not make enough to cover rent and groceries, the math simply fails. But looking closely at the data reveals a massive blind spot we call the income illusion. This chart shows paycheck-to-paycheck households by income level based on Lend.edu and Credit Ninja data. The struggle does not disappear when you hit the middle class. A staggering 44% of people making up to $100,000 report living paycheck to paycheck. Even in the top brackets, those making well over $150,000, a massive portion of these six-figure earners are actively drowning in the same cycle. Earning a higher salary does not fix the problem. Out-earning the pressure is mathematically impossible if the underlying mechanics of how you spend remain broken. The first trap high earners fall into is lifestyle inflation. When your salary goes up, your baseline expenses often expand to consume that new cash. You rent a slightly nicer apartment or buy a slightly newer car, and suddenly your new, larger paycheck feels exactly as tight as your old one. This graph tracks macroeconomic pressures on the modern consumer. The top line shows the rising cost of living due to inflation, while the bottom line tracks wage growth for the middle class since the start of 2025. According to Bank of America data, inflation is currently climbing significantly faster than those middle-class wages. This widening gap turns previously manageable fixed costs into severe liabilities. Thank you. And macroeconomic inflation shrinks the room inside. Together, they create an invisible structural trap that easily outpaces raw income generation. Our modern economy is engineered to extract your money invisibly. We can trace the descent into the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle down to 4 specific reasons, starting with the lack of a system and the psychological decoupling of digital spending. Reason number 1 is navigating your finances without a formal budget system. When you lack objective cash flow data, every financial decision is driven by subjective anxiety. You guess what you can afford based on the balance in your checking account today rather than what you actually owe tomorrow. Reason number 2 involves the rise of frictionless subscriptions. It is easier than ever to sign up for a $5 app or a premium delivery tier, creating small recurring digital leaks that you forget about almost instantly. This creates what economists call the liquidity flypaper effect. Automated digital payments decouple psychological pain of parting with your money from the actual act of consuming the service. You enjoy the movie stream, but you never feel the physical sting of handing over a $20 bill. Without cash flow visibility or real payment friction, your bank account is silently drained by 1,000 invisible cuts long before your next payday arrives. Once the cash is gone, consumers turn to modern debt traps. Reason number 3 is relying on credit cards and buy now, pay later platforms to artificially inflate your income. Pay-in-4 platforms use the numerosity effect. Splitting a $100 price tag into 4 $25 installments tricks psychology into perceiving items as cheaper. Because these loans are frictionless, shoppers stack multiple plans. Data reveals this causes a permanent spending increase of $60. That brings us to reason 4, carrying a zero balance in your emergency fund. This specific vulnerability turns that extra $60 of debt spending from a minor nuisance into a full-blown crisis. Recent Bankrate data shows that 58% of Americans have flat or declining savings compared to last year. Only 46% possess the liquidity needed to cover 3 months of basic expenses. Stay with me, because these separate variables are currently converging into a singular financial crisis. When you combine the cognitive illusions of buy now, pay later platforms with thoroughly depleted savings accounts, you build a fragile financial loop. In this state, even the smallest economic shock, like a flat tire or a medical bill, instantly triggers an unrecoverable debt spiral. Overcoming these economic traps does not require an iron will. It requires replacing psychological willpower with strict mechanical systems. The direct mechanical fix for lifestyle creep is the 3-account system. This schematic shows the process. The moment you get paid, your money is automatically routed into needs, wants, and savings accounts. This happens instantly before you ever perceive that cash as being available in a general checking account. This preemptive automation removes the daily cognitive load of budgeting. It forces financial discipline on your cash flow without relying on your behavior because the money for your fixed costs and savings is safely locked away before you can physically spend it. Next, we apply the 24-hour rule. This acts as the behavioral antidote to the numerosity effect and the temptation of frictionless debt. The rule dictates a mandatory 24-hour pause on any non-essential purchase over $50. Forcing this delay shatters the psychological illusion of frictionless spending, giving your logical brain time to process the actual cost and override impulsive desires. To get started, perform a line-by-line audit of your last 30 days of bank statements. Find those invisible digital leaks and terminate the subscriptions you no longer use. Being broke by Payday is not a character flaw. It's a system problem, and today you just learned the system to fix it. As a reminder, this video is designed for educational strategy and discussion. It does not constitute direct financial advice, and you should always consult with a certified professional before making major changes to your personal finances.